Dynamite download.
AEW 2020, John Silver.
Special event, as you can see, SPD.
For a splashing good time. January recruitment.
I come along, I come along in the ring.
I mean, I would not want to hear that. I would not. We got great this year at SPD. Boy, weird.
Hey, what's up, crayfish?
Yeah, baby. We got some lively activity already in the chat. Some of my favorite people to interact with on Twitter are with us tonight. Everybody is vibing. Y'all, get ready because the bourbon's flowing. The Team Heel shirt's on. It's just being booking by Bonds tonight, y'all. So it's going to be all in on Team Heel. We don't have SPD and his sunny rose-tinted glasses, everything that he's got going. Team Heel is going to be unrestricted tonight, y'all. You have any questions?
Oh, yeah, we're going to be on a different wavelength.
No doubt. You and I get real deep. We dive down deep and dirty with pro wrestling. We look at wrestling in a kind of a different lens sometimes. That's what makes our group great. We got SPD kind of balance us out. But tonight, dude, I got a feeling we're going to have some in-depth killer conversations about AEW.
Oh, I'm excited.
And, I mean, fresh off the heels of Road Rager, heading into night one of an epic two-night, event that AEW is throwing out for us, with Fighter Fest. This is going to be a home run Friday night fights and flights. Bonzi boy, thank you for kicking it with me.
Yes, sir.
Let's get into it real quick, brother. What are you drinking tonight, homeboy? I know you got something good over there, huh? A little Red Bull.
I'm drinking something I found at the pizza shop I went to a couple weeks ago.
What in the world? Yeah, I can't see what that is, bro.
It's good.
I'm just kidding. What? Tell us what is this? A beer?
It's Platform. It's like a lemon beer.
Nice. All right. I was out at Kroger. I was out at Kroger grabbing my pregnant wife some ice cream and malt powder. I made her a little malt today, chocolate malt. She wasn't feeling
Everybody
good.
wish Mr. Crayfish a big congratulations.
Thank you. Even heels got to reproduce and bring on that. We got to balance out the world, brother. We got to keep that balance.
We got to make some MJF fans, don't we?
That's right. We got to have kids that'll grow up and love MJF and Britt Baker, right? I mean, come on. I was joking with my wife about that, too. It's like, man, our kid is going to love the DMD. That's going to be so funny. They might say DMD before they say dad. I don't know. So, anyway, yeah, so I was at the grocery store getting ice cream and malt powder, and I got a little Coca-Cola coffee flavor. Brand new product. So I grabbed a little of that, got a little bourbon in this glass. We're going to be kicking it. You're going to have a good time. So
just some
let's get into it,
bro. That sounds good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Appreciate that. Huss, thanks for joining us. Scoot, all y'all out there. These are seriously, we got some good people out in this chat tonight. Bonds, before we let the fans trickle in and ask us, take some fan questions. When we were talking and planning this show, brother, there was one topic that you said we absolutely had to cover. Get into it. Lay down the foundation for the landscaping of this upcoming segment.
Well, I think that one of the biggest feuds going on, one of my favorite feuds going on is MJF and Chris Jericho. We're going to start off the show with that, with Inner Circle versus Pinnacle, because MJF revealed, what's going on with Jericho. If he wants to wrestle him, he's got to go through the rest of the Pinnacle. And all of the matches have different stipulations, and it's going to be awesome. We still don't know what each match is going to be yet. And this is just so interesting, and I'm so excited because they're going to have like a whole different thing for everyone, and Jericho's going to get to MJF. Like, he has to, doesn't he? So, like, we're going to see some cool stuff. We're going to see how he wins these matches too. Like, are they going to be like no disqualification? Is that how like some of these are going to go? Because like, if he has to go through all these guys, man, that's a lot of people.
I wanted to ask you that too. I wanted to ask you something too. Like, MJF, the way he words things is very deliberate. Was it that is it official that Jericho's going to have to fight everyone in the Pinnacle, or is it just people of MJF's choosing? Because it sounded like the way he said it was like the Pinnacle, but I mean that'd be even more interesting. It would be. I mean, I don't know what MJF's up to, right? This dude is the most twisted. I just heard. At first, my mind immediately thought, "Oh yeah, he's going to go through the gauntlet of the Pinnacle." But I went back, and I know other folks are out there talking, and he was MJF, dude. This dude is very, you know him. He's very specific with what he says, and I have a feeling he said it in a way that it was not clear to me. My mind immediately jumped to the Pinnacle, but MJF did not say that. And since I've been marinating on it, and we had a crossover collaboration project yesterday. We talked about our favorite feuds in AEW right now. SPD was gushing about this feud, and really Dynamite Download, our whole crew here, we all say it week after week. MJF and Jericho together is gold. Bonds, in your column this week, you said it so perfectly, where you said it's going to be a shame when this feud has to end. Because all good things come to an end, but this is a feud where these two are so money together. It's just absolutely such a joy to watch them interact with each other. But I have a feeling, based off of what I heard, and I know there are some rumbles out there, Scoot threw this out there. I have a feeling that the ultimate MJF heel dick move that guy will do is have Jericho fight his own crew. And in order to get his hands on MJF, he has to beat his own friends. It just seems like the most manipulative shit you could do. And MJF is a shitbag. So I have a feeling that he would totally stoop to that.
Let him win? They'd let him win.
Maybe they all just lay down. Maybe that's true. Maybe they all just lay down. But MJF's gonna have some sort of stipulation, right?
He's gonna do something interesting.
It's gonna. He's gonna throw some curveballs to us AEW fans, and honestly, dude, when I look at this last week's show, SPD and I were talking about our top performers. It felt like the show, like the Pinnacle, just MJF killed it into that promo. The Pinnacle, War Dog and FTR, they ended up coming out on top in that trios tag match. It just felt like this last week was like the week of the Pinnacle, kind of getting their feet back underneath them. Other than your boy Sammy Guevara putting out Sean Spears in kind of an awkward segment, right? I thought that was a little weird.
Like here, I just totally see me coming, Sean, but I surprised you.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
It was just funny. It was weirdly.
Let's just agree. Okay, like let's say if MJF goes and leans into the thing that we both immediately jumped to and thought it was going to be, he's going to have to beat everybody in the Pinnacle to get to MJF. If he does that, who would be the number one matchup that you'd like to see Jericho in, and what would be the stipulation?
Man, I'd like to see him wrestle Wardlow, just because I wonder how that match would go. I want to see like what they would do, how they would get around it, because they protect Wardlow a lot. Maybe do some sort of stipulation that doesn't fit him well, but it's like kind of just a screwy, doesn't end up fitting him well. Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. The problem is they book him so strong. Like even in the match with Hager, the MMA fight, he looked like at home in that MMA fight.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the matchup I would be willing to see or I'd want to see the most, just because I want to see what they would do with it more so than anything else. I think. What about you?
Well, I mean, for me, if they go that route, And we've seen some of these matchups before already, so that's why I do think the more I think about it, I do think it could be MJF's turns the Inner Circle against each other.
That'd be cool.
But I tend to agree with you. I think that the War Dog, like I say it every time we get to see him in action, it feels special. They, like you said, he's presented so strong. It really feels like TK and the brass at AEW see what we see. I remember going back in our end of the year awards for 2020, and heading into this year, we talked about our breakout stars, and I think it was all three of us. We kind of all were in agreement. Wardlow, Thunder Rosa, and Ricky Starks were our picks. And I think that, obviously might have some Cleveland bias. It makes me happy when I hear him announce from Cleveland, Ohio. But
every time.
I think that the War Dog, honest to God, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is a guy who genuinely reminds me of a young Brock Lesnar in what he can do inside the ring, the way he presents himself, his rare, like his blend of like MMA style, power, athleticism, willingness to try crazy stuff off the top, and also
do whatever
stuff
that he shouldn't be able to do at his size.
Exactly, I love that about him, and he also kind of has that badass vibe to him too, right? Like Brock's that guy who goes out and lives in Minnesota and carries trees on his back for a workout, and Wardlow just kind of seems like he kind of has that same like leave me alone. I just want to work out, beat people up, and go home. That kind of mentality to him. And I love that about the War Dog.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's super entertaining, and I'm glad you picked that too, because I know that was an easy one for both of us. I think because we both love that. Yeah, obviously, like the Dax match, that rematch would be great because that was a good match by itself. I like to see that one again just because, the rematch would be really cool. The first one was great. So, but again, I think all these matches will be good. I just wonder what they're going to do. Are they going to have him like do like a gauntlet match, or are they going to have him like wrestle over a couple of weeks? I'm assuming this is going to happen at All Out, right? So have this go on for, have this go on for 5 matches, like one every week. That'd be really cool. Or maybe have him do a handicap match with FTR. Like
Jericho said it would be the Summer of Pain, and what better way to do that than allow Jericho, to the Painmaker, just elbowing people in the face every single week as he goes through the trials and tribulations to get his hands on MJF, and again, I talked about this with SPD, dude. Like he's 0-2 against MJF, yet there's still so much intrigue on him getting a rematch. It's beautiful how they have their hooks in us like they do. It's just these guys can fight 50 times and I still want to see it happen. The way that they know how to build and play off of the fans, they're so good at what they do. They can keep going at this forever. Talking about fight forever and going on forever, the Darby Allin and All Ego feud kind of added some depth this week. Kind of that sit-down interview with JR. I know that's a way that you want to see AEW utilize JR more. Home run segment this week. I mean, the way All Ego, that dude's his stare looked like he was ready to kill somebody. And I also, as somebody who loves Darby, is really pushing Darby this year. I'm loving the Darby Express right now. I thought it was really cool and uncharacteristic of Darby to kind of go on the offensive in a promo. He's not getting bullied this time around. He went right after. Yeah, he went right after All Ego and basically said, like, you are complacent in your life, and you kind of like, I don't know, you allowed yourself to go down a slower path. I was willing to risk everything, and that's just kind of like, it kind of makes sense. Like All Ego is this prototypical, at this point in his career, has slowly but surely built himself into being a guy who you just say, oh yeah, this guy, man, like he's got so much upside.
This guy's great.
He's got a lot of upside, but it's taken him. He's not the same guy he was in Impact, dude. I don't know if you watched the same, but dude, when he was in Team Canada,
he's very different here.
Very different. And I think that like you could tell he's kind of feeling himself. Like he kind of recognizes, like, all right, I am where I need to be, and if I put in the work, my career can take off. All ego is he's killing it right now. That promo, that little sit down interview to me, I know when we did that crossover collaboration, we talked about our favorite feuds in AEW, and I know that we're going to talk about a lot about feuds tonight. We want to talk about Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. We want to talk about, I know that you're desperate to dive into Team Taz, Ricky Starks and Brian Cage getting their hands on each other. I said my favorite feud right now is Darby Allin versus All Ego Ethan Page. I know that's kind of a sleeper feud. I know it doesn't have the star power of Jericho or the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle. I know it's kind of one of those like mid-card feuds, but to me, dude, I see great things on both sides, and there's a good blend of youth. There's a good blend of great heel promo work out of All Ego Ethan Page. There's that like scrappy underdog in Darby Allin who's so easy to root for. His offensive style against Ethan Page, dude. We've marked out over how powerful Ethan Page is for every time. Imagine what he's going to look like in a coffin match against Darby Allin. Imagine what he's going to do.
Stuff.
Oh, my God, dude. I'm so geeked about that match.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great, and they're setting it up so well, in my opinion as well. Like, there's just such good promo work here with these guys. This is like, in my opinion, this is the best promos they've done in this feud so far. It was this week with JR. I think it was pretty awesome, and they got personal, and they made it, they brought it back to where they used to work, which I love that AEW isn't afraid to do that. Like, they're not afraid to pretend these guys existed before. Like, people know who they are. People know that they wrestle each other. They talk about it on a commentary. Like, have them lean into it, and they're leaning into it. And that's
lean into it.
Right, lean into the obvious, baby. Exactly. Lean into the obvious stuff. Stuff that works that is going to work. If they can do it, which obviously they can. Look at their chops on the mic this week, both of them. Ethan Page has been great, but Darby's been awesome too with this. So it's like, it's been really fun, and like especially this week, like he went out there and was like, "Yo, like you lived a complacent life, dude. I was homeless, but I was trying to do it my way, and I got here first. Like I made it here before you did." And like it was a really cool like dichotomy between the two.
Right,
I really enjoyed it.
Everything about these two guys feels like a dichotomy, right? You got Ethan Page, who's got that pretty boy, like got that preppy vibe to him. And then you got Darby, who's kind of like that loner outsider vibe to him. It just works. It just works.
It works super well.
I know Fyre Fest is absolutely stacked, and I can't wait to hear you talk about that Team Taz. That is a match we've been waiting for forever. But this casket match between these two guys, man, I'm telling that's a match that could be a show-stealing type of match. That said, I know that let's just rip the Band-Aid off, brother. Let's talk Team Taz. That is the match I know. Starks versus Cage. There is no bigger Team Taz fan that I know than Booking by Bonds. Tell us, look at how they've been booking this and compare it to how you in your column. You kind of forecasted what you would do. I already see similar things to what you had happen. I think that Hobbs kind of has been screwed over by the antics, and he's kind of tired of it. Everybody in Team Taz seems to be tired of the drama. I do see this happening a little differently right now with like Ricky Starks being portrayed as the drama star.
I like
right? They're turning on Ricky, not on Cage, which is interesting. I did not see that happening. Am I getting swerved?
I didn't either, because Ricky Starks is the obvious, like, maybe, who knows? I don't know, because it seems like this week specifically they were like, hey, man, Ricky, you're starting to get annoying. That was kind of the thing this week. Like, what are you doing, man? Come on. But that was kind of the opposite of what they've been doing, where, like, Taz on commentary is burying Brian Cage when he's dominating matches. So you're having this whole different flip now where, like, what's going on? Right. Are they going to, like, have all of Team Taz turn, like, babyface? Or are they going to have, maybe Hobbs and Cage do it? Or are they going to have Starks, with Taz swerving everybody, like that'd be cool too. Who knows? It's awesome. And so like we're gonna have a lot of questions answered.
Really intrigued.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Bonds, I think, just hear me out, bro. I think what's going to end up happening is this time next week, you're going to be like, hey, they did exactly what I thought they were going to do. Because at Fyter Fest, I think that this is going to end up being a swerve. I think that Team Taz is going to turn on Cage. And that epic beating that you wrote about, I could see that type of thing kind of happening where I could see them all turning on Cage. All of us see Cage as a potential monster babyface. Imagine Team Taz all collaboratively turning on Cage and attacking him. I think it makes so much sense. It lays the foundation for Brian Cage getting backstabbed by his friends, not Cage turning his back on them, right? Like I think it pushes Cage's face push to in the right direction, right? And then immediately it gives Team Taz nuclear heat. They're gonna turn on Cage. They're gonna beat him down, cost him the FTW title, all of that stuff. And if I know Taz the way I think I do, I have a feeling that it could get ugly. It could get a little nasty. Ricky Starks was getting nasty and personal, talking about FT wives, FT wife. He was talking a little bit of talking some smack, going after Brian Cage's
doing what Ricky Starks does best.
Family. That's what the stroke daddy. Really good. Good stuff too, man. Do you see Ricky Starks coming out on top, or do you think by some way Cage keeps that FTW title?
Well, I think if it goes the way that we're talking about, Team Taz betraying Brian Cage, I think it's going to be with Ricky Starks as the new FTW champion, and
makes sense.
Then you have something for Cage to chase, too. That's potential there. You have the feud continuing through the chase, because if they just betrayed him, then why would he do anything? So you got a reason for him to continue bothering with those guys. It's like a pride thing at that point. Yeah,
I think that I think it's going to make for a great stuff. Yep, I think that makes for a great story down the road, and it really plays into the different level, like character dramas that I think that Team Taz has been so good at, underappreciated at the character drama that they've had. But I think that we're going to finally see some things emerging. Burn. Brian Cage now. I mean, yeah, dude, it's been a slow burn, and that's what's beautiful about we talk about this over and over and over again, Bonds. The long-term storytelling in AEW, it makes you feel good as a fan, that where you get rewarded for watching. Off. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have we seen things, the stop and start, all these different things happen on the other brands. This makes you feel like if you are loyal, if you watch, the stories actually pay off. The characters actually interact with each other. They remember the history. Yeah. And I think there's no greater example of that than the story of Hangman Adam Page. Like that, what's happening right now with the Elite and how they're running the show, really in a pretty awful way. Like let's be real, like just total dirtbag way. Doing it in true heel fashion, doing a phenomenal job at representing Team Heel right now. I mean, Team Heel. If Team Heel was a cryptocurrency like MJF coin, it would be killing it right now, because the Elite are absolutely doing some of the best work of their careers right now in AEW. Miro is the champion for the TNT title. Britt Baker is the champion, even for the women's championship. This is Team Heel is running amok, baby. We're killing it right now. But I feel like the Hangman Adam Page is the guy who is going to unfortunately know our Achilles heel, and he's going to take down Team Heel, bro, because I think that the writing is on the wall. The way this story has played out, Hangman's going to go face to face with his old friends, his old partners, people who, when you look at some of the history that these guys have together, he's going to conquer his demons. This is going to be really a truly epic story greater than even Star Wars and Luke
Yeah.
Skywalker. I think it's going to be that kind of story. Don't you feel like? I mean, he's going to face this. Luke's going to finally tap into his potential and gain the confidence to face the dark side. And I think he's going to slay the demons. I'm excited to see where this is going.
And our Darth Vader gets leopard print pants. Like he knows what's going on, dude. Like our Darth Vader is a lot more flamboyant and ready. You know, he's more like a Khan than a Darth Vader. You know, he's pretty awesome.
That's so true, bro. He's definitely got a little bit more. He's got a little more steez than Darth Vader. Darth Vader, he's all black. Kenny would have some like leopard skin shoes or something like that. You know what I mean? His lightsaber would.
He's a Tiger King.
He's Vader. His lightsaber would have some sort of like, epic. It would be pink and have all sorts of cool shit. Man, Kenny would do it in style, no doubt about it. But Hangman versus Kenny, is clearly the story they're building for All Out. And Bonds, I think that we've been saying it. Kenny's had an incredible run as champion, and as the belt collector. He and Don Callis and the whole elite are doing some incredible work right now. Stuff that I know that you feel is underappreciated. But I think that Hangman is he's gonna turn a new chapter for AEW. Come All Out. This is gonna be the guy who takes down Kenny, the best bout machine. I think it's gonna be epic.
Well, we talk about how the pay-per-views feel like the end of a season of a TV show. That's definitely a thing with AEW. They're smart about that. They make sure that, their pay-per-views matter. And it's almost like the end of a season of a show. So we're going to see the end of the Kenny Omega era.
Probably the end of the Elite era. I mean, I think that the Bucks will probably drop the belts. They've had such a great title reign.
I don't know if they should all lose at the same night.
I think they should. I personally think
that'd be kind of funny.
I think that the Elite all lose on the same night, and they kind of have to run off with their tail between their legs. And I think it would send their characters into a whole new direction where they start questioning themselves, some infighting, who knows. But I think that would be a very definitive, great way to end this chapter. Because they paralleled each other so much. I mean, just Kenny and Don, they're the way that they manipulated the Bucks to kind of slowly turn to be on their side, and now the Bucks are, I think, arguably more leading the pack more than Kenny as far as being just like absolutely hilarious, awful heels. I think that like this would be a great way to kind of end this chapter. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who see, let's be honest, the tag titles, even though the Bucks have had an incredible reign as tag team champions, I think that I've loved their character work. I love what they're doing right now. It feels like the titles don't even need to be involved, really, man. Like these guys, like they're so good at what they do that the titles almost feel like an afterthought in a lot of their matches. I mean, the Bucks versus Kingston and Moxley stuff and all this stuff that's going on right now, the Elite Hunter stuff with Frankie Kazarian. I know I want to hear your thoughts on that. But all of that stuff could really feel independent of the tag championships in a lot of ways. Frankie Kazarian's beef is very personal. Moxley and Kingston, the Death Triangle. I know that they've challenged for the tag titles, but I feel like there's also that like they've been screwed so many times that they hate these guys, and it's a very personal feud. I'm excited to see the tag championships transition to another team that opens up, because the Bucks have beaten so many teams, right? I mean, they've beaten almost everybody. Right. Same thing with Kenny. That's why this story is so funny. It's just
such a big deal.
Exactly.
Like I kind of disagree about the belts to a point. I do think that the belts they have mattered in a lot of ways where it's like the chase wouldn't be there if the belts weren't involved. You know what I mean? So
that's true. That is true.
If there was if there was no belts, like the whole point of the feud is like these guys are your champs. Like they're representing the company
Dirt
horribly.
bags. Right.
They're dirt bags, you know, they're total
Right.
dirt bags. And it's
Right. Good point.
It works in that regard. But like I get what you're saying though. Like I'm ready for something else to happen. I'm ready for the next step of this storyline to go.
My point just being it just feels so character heavy. Like the work that they're doing is so like, man, these guys are such great antagonistic heels. They're so over the top. They're so good at what they do that I feel like even if they didn't have this, and I agree with you, right? It has been sort of about you know, these guys are keeping the titles at any means necessary, but it almost feels like to me there's a lot of over the course of the way this feud has played out, now that they've established all these very heated rivalries with people where they've screwed so many people over, you could have the Bucks have you could have the Bucks have a lot of great programs with other talents without needing the titles now. You know what I mean? Like, how many people have Brandon Cutler and the Bucks screwed over? I feel like if they lose the belts, they have a lot of meat on the bone, as I like to say. There's a lot there for them to have potential feud like matchups. I mean, again, if the Varsity Blondes and the Bucks had a program together based off the Bucks screwing them over, no one would bat an eye. If you could go through the whole, like basically like you said, the whole tag roster has fallen victim to their antics. I just think that there's a lot there.
Same with the singles roster with Kenny.
Agreed.
They've all done their part. Like,
and congratulations, honest to God, like congratulations to the Elite for what they've done. I feel like this has really been an awesome era. I mean, to me, this has been a very fun era, and I know it's probably not shocking. Team Heel is excited about this era, but I just feel like this era of AEW has been hitting hard. They're really delivering a quality product week after week after week. And I think
new
it's because
stars are coming out all the time. There's a lot going on.
And Bonds, it's because they're leaning into the guys who established this company. The Elite are serving as the framework. Like, think about it, right? Like, Jungle Boy had a great opportunity against Kenny Omega recently. How many tag teams that we were virtually unknown or very like or unproven
a year ago
have gotten an opportunity against the Bucks where now they feel like we want to see more of them. We're excited about them
because they held their own.
They're using All Elite Wrestling is using that talent, that core that they have as the foundation to build something greater. And it's just, I know it feels like, wow, it's a no-brainer, right? Like, duh. But sometimes you can outsmart yourself and you can try to get too cute. And I think that there was a period where AEW was afraid to lean into utilizing, pushing Kenny as the best guy in the world, pushing the Young Bucks as the best tag team in the world. I feel like there was some period where they were backing away from that.
They're worried about
almost because they knew that there would be criticism, right? But I feel like because they've embraced that, it's opened up a lot of opportunities and opened up a lot of doors for so many more exciting matchups down the road, because now you've established a lot of people as legit. And now when you bring in someone like an Aleister Black, now, Malachi Black, now when you bring in an Andrade El Idolo, when you have these types of outside talents that come in and can merge with the homegrown talents like Jungle Boy and Darby Allin and things like that, you have this you have a perfect blend of big name guys that we've seen from the competition that really we feel were maybe underutilized, or were handcuffed by creative control, who we want to see get a whole new opportunity in AEW. You have that section of the roster. Then you have the Elite and the guys who really are the cornerstones, the first signings that were the OGs of AEW, if you will, right? like even not just Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes, but even like people.
It's a whole bunch.
We were talking about like Penelope Ford and just, there are names on the roster that, they've been around from the beginning. Like they just feel like even the guys like Santana Ortiz, who had a lot of success and impact before they came, Santana Ortiz feel like AEW guys, right? Because of their connection to the inner circle, they feel like AEW guys. There's that blend of those AEW core guys that have been there from day one. You have those WWE, ex-WWE guys that have come in, and then you also have these young up-and-comers that are getting opportunities to show what they have. It's a really nice blend of youth, of established guys that are on your roster, that are your brand, and then of guys that you're bringing in that are incredibly talented, that bring intrigue and pop and mystique and aura and freshness and changing things up from the outside coming in. I really love this blend. It feels very, very balanced to me right now. When I look at the AEW roster, it feels very balanced. You have the Malachi Blacks, you have your guy Miro, but you have the Jungle Boys and the Darby Allins, and I think that there's a lot of great things happening right now in the landscape of AEW.
Dude, I couldn't agree more, man. We're starting to see like the payoffs on guys like Darby Allin, like Sammy Guevara, MJF. These guys that are homegrown dudes that you can tell are like, these guys are the built up future. There's nothing wrong with having, WWE guys, guys that were there for a while. There's nothing wrong with that. We're at the point where AEW is big enough. They need to fill out their roster with guys that are well known, that they don't have to spend a year or 2 years building, that they can have kind of go in there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Like
there's
something to be said for there's something to be said for building team, like people like Jungle Boy and Darby Allin and things and the Acclaimed. And we can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
The women's division, trying to think about the growth and the transformation the women's division has had since the beginning of this company. There's something to be said for that, and we can respect and appreciate that. But as AEW really is, I think, boxing out WWE and getting ready. I mean, they are making it known, like, hey, we're here. We're sitting at the dinner table, bro. Like, it ain't. We're not getting your scraps. Like, we are here to stay, and we're gonna challenge you for that number one spot. Like, we're legitimately coming for that top spot. Like, don't get it twisted.
They're one or two signings away, in my opinion, from being like,
it's
right
happening.
there.
It's happening right now, bro. It's happening. The buzz around AEW is real. With Rampage coming to challenge SmackDown on Friday nights, that's going to be a game changer. And you nailed it, dude. The more exposure that AEW has, right? They need to have that mix. They need to keep that balance there, right? Draw eyes to the product with familiar people like Miro, like Aleister Black, like Andrade, Cody, Jericho, right? When AEW came on the forefront, Jericho was its first champion for a reason, because he brings eyes from outside of AEW back into AEW, and it makes you want to watch the product. The more they do that and embrace
Jericho fans,
if they're smart about who they bring in, and I think AEW has been, to this point, I think pretty smart. I don't think that we could really criticize outright any of these signings as kind of like desperation ploys or bad moves. I mean, Mark Henry has been an interesting addition, especially Busted Open, his ties to Busted Open. I really like that AEW has embraced that relationship with Busted Open. Paul White, I think he's been great on commentary. I think that they need to continue to have veteran,
really good.
Matt Hardy and Christian Cage. They have a big match coming up at Fyter Fest. I think that's going to hit all the right notes of nostalgia. I think both those guys are right where they need to be. I think it's really interesting to see them embrace. You could see Christian and Jungle Boy having some things going on. Matt Hardy has really had the Hardy family office, like what they've been doing. giving other people opportunities. Private Party's been a lot of fun under Matt Hardy. They have a nice blend, and I think that when they go into Rampage, you're going to have guys like, dude, when you go into Rampage and you have somebody like Andrade, who you know you can just throw out there with somebody who you think has upside, and you know that he's going to have a banger of a match. Like, that's the thing I was talking to SPD about. He doesn't really know much about Andrade, right? But it's like, dude,
right.
I'm telling you, all right, like, it was a perfect setup to have him and Matt Sydal together, because it's like they're very similar in that, like, you could throw Matt Sydal in the ring with anybody, and you know he's gonna go. He has a motor, like they can go 100 miles an hour.
Yeah,
he's a smart guy in the ring, and he's gonna.
They're showing Andrade off,
right? But Andrade's the same style, bro. Andrade, you're gonna be able to use him.
That's what they were doing. They're showing him off.
He's a type of, like, when you look at the company, right, and you look at our roster like a chessboard, right? Andrade is one of those pieces, like the Queen. You just can move anywhere. You can put him all over the chessboard. That dude is the type of guy that will fit with a lot of different styles in the company. And that's why I like the Aleister Black signing too, because Black's offensive style is mostly strikes, mostly, like a lot of fun, like creative blends of striking. That, dude, you could throw him in with Cody, who's a workhorse, but you could put that kind of style in with a Ray Phoenix. Imagine the type of banger matches he would have with Ray Phoenix. There's so much potential.
Such a different style.
Yeah, I like the AEW's had some very smart, strategic hires. I want to see them get Thunder Rosa on board full time down the road. There are a few names that I still think, obviously AEW is going to be intrigued by. Dude, we're looking forward to All Out, the be all end all signing. If somehow, some way, God, if you're listening, CM Punk at All Out in Chicago, that's the dream. Daniel Bryan, I know that we're gonna be there, and if Daniel Bryan showed up, right, there are certain names, and so you can criticize and say, oh, they shouldn't hire ex-WWE guys. Dude, if Daniel Bryan goes over to AEW, if CM Punk went over to AEW, if Brock, there are certain names that if they're available and AEW can go after them, they would be stupid not to do that. CM Punk is, as you put it, I think Bryan to me would be the most fun in ring, right? Because I think Daniel Bryan versus Kenny Omega, or like, it's just
great. We've seen it.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Right. But from a landscape, like a mind-blowing factor, CM Punk would just be unbelievable. That would be a game changer.
How many fans would immediately start watching AEW that didn't give it a chance? Like, if I'll tell you right now, if I wasn't watching wrestling right now, like I was before I started watching AEW, like I wasn't watching wrestling at all anymore because I was just kind of, bored of the product. If I would have not been doing this with you guys and I heard CM Punk went to AEW, I would watch AEW immediately. Like, you know what I mean? That's just what I would do. I'm that big of a fan. I'm that interested in it as that, what would they do with that storyline? They would do so much art that imitates life with that. That they already have digs at WWE all the time. Like we had one that was pretty controversial this week, but I think that would be a huge, huge get, obviously, especially in Chicago. Just, makes sense. Tony, if you're listening, we give him what he wants. Whatever he wants.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that
would be awesome.
I, as a guy who works at Flexingate and tries to make the Khan family a lot of money, I have a feeling that, like, let's go out there and spend some coin, and the paycheck for CM Punk, you could honestly throw him Patrick Mahomes' salary, and it'll be worth it. Just make it happen. CM Punk, bring him in for like a limited contract, and the absolute tidal wave of momentum that would have would just be absolutely unbelievable to see. Regardless,
I think that AEW personality, like, don't even. Don't even worry.
Okay,
about
we've gone
Yeah.
off on a tangent. It's obvious that I've been drinking a little bourbon because I'm just dreaming about potential amazing things that'll happen at All Out. Bonds, if booking by Bond style, we had a great couple questions that came through from Huss Gamer, one of our great advocates on social media. Do you feel like jumping into a booking by Bonds now that we've got set the stage for the show, kind of having a good time, kind of getting a little loose?
We've re-landscaped enough.
You feel like you feel like you're ready, bro? You feel like you kind of have that vibe down where you can kind of get into it? There are two great suggestions.
Oh, yeah.
And those of you who have joined us in the chat, if you have any questions that you want us to talk about AEW while Bonds is spitting hot fire and responding to a booking by Bonds challenge, we'd love to hear some of those questions. We'd love to talk about what you think is hottest in AEW. I'm shocked that we are 46 minutes into the show and Crayfish hasn't said the DMD yet, which I finally have got my quota in. So by the end of the show, I promise I'll get the DMD quota in. We've kind of stayed away a little bit from the DMD because of how controversial she seems to be right now. I'm going to be an advocate for her. I think that what's happening right now is compelling stuff. I would be intrigued if anybody out there wants to talk a little DMD Nyla Rose feud. I think that would be something that, obviously would be a lot of fun to get into. Bonds, that said, we'll let the fan base decide what's going to happen post booking by Bonds. I'm looking at what we're seeing here. And there's two big things that jumped out at Huss Gamer. When he was chatting with us, he said, Bonds, how would you book Jungle Boy? This is a character that SPD was really excited he got an opportunity against Kenny Omega because it felt like he was slipping through the cracks a little bit. Like before this opportunity, there were moments where he was a little worried about that. We've seen the same thing happen with Orange Cassidy at times. I think that's going to change now that live crowds are back. These are types of characters that will do best in front of live crowds, but I think that question by Huss is a really great one that I really am interested to hear you talk about. Is now post Kenny Omega match, right? He lost an opportunity. He won the Battle Royal, lost to Kenny. Jungle Jack Perry, as you like to you like to call him Jack Perry, all right, Jungle Jack. How would you book him going forward? You see this alliance with Christian. I've heard rumblings about potential, Christian maybe turning on JB at some time. Are you on board with that, or do you think that Jungle Boy should go in a different direction? I want to hear, how would you book Jack Perry now that he's got his shot against Kenny, came up a little short, but still has that momentum that we don't want to see die out. I think that you got to strike while the iron's hot with Jungle Boy. How would you do that?
Well, I think they're trying right now currently to do that. Just based on what I'm seeing, like we're seeing on commentary, hearing it, they're starting to call him different names too. Like he's not Jungle Boy, just Jungle Boy anymore. They're calling him Jungle Jack. They're calling him Jack Perry. Like they're going trying to get him a little more seriously taken, I would say. Like, here, let's get this guy, make him a believable potential guy down the line. He's 25 years old. We got to get him at this next level. You start him off as this guy, a boy with his dinosaur, you know what I mean? And then you kind of, at the end of this, we want him to be a title contender, so you have to kind of build him that way. And I think Christian, yeah, right. And I think that Christian, on his end, is a perfect opponent for that, because Christian is, a guy who's been around for so long, who's been respected in Impact, in WWE, now in AEW. He's been in a ton of different companies, and so if you have this potential with Christian, where you have him kind of go in there and do some, he's kind of being odd. I don't know how to take it sometimes with what they're doing with Christian. Sometimes it's he's almost kind of acting a little weird, which is cool. I like that they're not making it super obvious what the game plan is. So having him kind of do that stuff, like kind of be weird around Jungle Boy's friends, hey, or take you guys away from me kind of thing, like kind of separate them from him. I don't know how they're going to switch that, how the end goal, what the end goal is going to be for Christian, because that's important as well. But the way I would book it is just have him kind of, betray Jungle Boy. You get him in that picture that way. You have a guy like Christian who's respected, who's been a world champion. And when you have a world champion go down to a young guy like that, you're saying like, hey, man, like, we're ready to kind of, put the foot on the gas here with you. I think that Christian kind of knows his role.
Yeah. I was going to say, Bonds, I think that too, like, playing into that, I think, like, Christian's philosophy of outwork everyone, you put him in the ring with a Jack Perry who, I know that I'm not alone on this team. One of the most impressive things about him is his, sort of that, like, that motor that Jack has. He's a youngster, and that kid, it feels like sometimes he almost has to be slowed down, right? He would benefit a lot from working with a veteran like Christian, who, let's be real, like, Christian's not Brian Cage. Christian is not, he's not this like huge, massive, muscular dude. He's not this super high flying guy like a Rey Mysterio. He's a guy who kind of middle of the road at everything, but always had a way of getting over, wrestled really smart, knew how to like lean into what he did best. And that was always pacing and playing the crowd and knowing how to put on a good professional wrestling match. And that's one of the things we love about Christian. And I think that if you have him, who is that, especially at this point in his career, you were talking about it, he seems comfortable with like, all right, I'm going to serve my role here in this company. And like, I'm going to be legit. Like, Christian's legit. Like, Christian beat a powerhouse Hobbs. Christian's a guy who, like, this dude can go, right? Like, he's presented in a very positive way, and he's going to be a guy who, like, is never going to be a jobber in AEW, right? But, like, he kind of knows, like, all right, my role here is going to be to pay it forward to the next generation. And I think that a pairing with Jungle Boy would be a lot of fun, bro. Like, JB would be able to learn a little bit more about pacing. I think Christian's greatest asset as a professional wrestler is his mind. He knows how to keep things going. He's very fluid in the ring. And I think pacing would be such a thing that he would teach JB if they had a mini feud together. And honestly, where is Jungle Boy going to go from here? That would give him a great immediate story to go into. We've seen Christian play heel,
it would
face.
Buy him some time.
Christian's played heel, face, in between. I mean, that dude, like you talked about, he's been everywhere. You could put Christian on the moon and he would be able to get over. That guy is just he's gone from WWE to TNA to AEW. He's been everywhere. And he always finds a way to, I think, be a pro's pro. And that's one of the things I love about him. I think pairing up that's I've said it before, and maybe it's not as profound as I think it is, but I think one of the best things that AEW has done, Bonds, that I don't think gets enough credit is their pairing and utilization of veterans as it relates to the youth on the roster. I think that WWE has suffered so much from whenever they bring in veterans, you have these like veterans nights and all this stuff where the DX will beat up and embarrass, FTR at the time, the Revival. You have all these, you have all these moments where they lean on their history and the veterans and the names, but they don't use those names. They don't use those names to build the next generation. Instead, they pluck talent from other companies, right? And that's
like, wasn't the 90s great?
Homegrown talent
wasn't
right
the
now
90s awesome?
Right. That's they lean into that, and you look at their homegrown talent, and you're like, all right, like I can respect Kofi Kingston and the New Day, and I can respect even, I mean, I'll give him credit for Roman Reigns and John Cena and stuff like that. But like, who are those young guys in WWE that are next level? And I think one of the best examples right now is in WWE. They're using Matt Riddle and Randy Orton. And I think that's working really well for WWE. I think Randy Orton and Matt Riddle, that pairing is one of the more fun, tolerable things on Raw right now. I actually enjoy that.
Which is crazy to think about. I didn't expect that to be good, and I'm enjoying it too.
That kind of mentality and focus is so widespread in AEW. You have Matt Hardy and Private Party. You have Chris Jericho feuding with MJF. You have so many examples. Christian with Jungle Boy right now. You have so many examples of veterans either being in feuds or being in pairings with young talent. And I think that it's showcasing like a forward think, like it's showcasing a respect to the past, the present, and the future. You know what I mean? I really dig that. I really dig how AEW recognizes like it's got to be a blend of all three. You got to tap into the nostalgia. You got to tap into and pay respect to the past. You have to get ratings and lean into the guys who are killing it right now. But you have to be forward thinking too. You have to develop guys and girls that people want to see get better. One of the best parts of being a sports fan in general is watching kids play in college and then rooting for them to do well in the pros and for, projecting what they're going to do in the pros and comparing them to guys in the past. This is what we do in sports, right? That's the best part about sports. We love football, right? You talk about the kids in college and the NFL draft and what they're going to do and how they're going to change the landscape of the team they're going to. AEW can operate in the very same way, right? Look at all right, who's going to be our franchise quarterback for the next 5 years, the next 10 years? Who's going to be that guy, that stud that we can count on when we need a sack on third down that maybe doesn't play every down, but we're going to rotate in who's going to get that sack and who's going to, who's going to be that guy? And I think that AEW's really, you could tell Tony Khan, because this guy dips his hands, he has so many freaking pots on the stove, bro. Like he pulls things from different parts of what he's gained into his wrestling company. Why reinvent the wheel? If you're trying to establish a pro wrestling company, why not hire guys like Mark Henry and Paul White and Dean Malenko and Jerry Lynn and Chris Jericho? Why not hire these types of veterans and let them teach the next generation? Why not give tryouts on YouTube to countless women during the pandemic? Why not try that and see if you strike gold, you strike gold. I think that they're doing great stuff.
And if not, there's nothing lost.
Who do you think now?
Oh, dude, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. You were about to ask something. You go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, man, who do you think? When we talk about the past, present, and future, I know that this is just inspired by our conversation, so I know I'm throwing this at you on the spot, and it's a big question, Bond. So I know it might seem unfair, but you're good enough to throw something in response. Who in AEW do you see maybe their chapter is closing? So who do you feel like that past that might be in the next year or two you think might end up getting phased out a little bit in the landscape of AEW? Who's it one talent that you think that they're going to go all in on by the end of this year? Who do you think is going to be the present that they're going to really invest in heavily? And 5 years from now, when we're on Dynamite Download episode, 300, what will be the star or the name that we talk the most about on a Friday Night Fights and Flights in 5 years? So who do you think's chapter or is kind of closing? Who do you think they're going to lean into and invest in now? And who do you think is going to emerge as that top guy down the road? Because I think that there's a lot of answers. I know it could seem obvious for the present, but there's a lot of names that could come out. So I want to hear your take, and then we'll transition into a couple fan questions after that.
Yeah. So very good question, dude. I really like this one. I think that this is like a really hard question. Like you said, there's a lot of answers. There's no wrong answer either.
I agree.
I think that you and I, if we both answer this, we're both gonna have different answers. And unfortunately, like phasing out, it's always sad. But I do think it's gonna be Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is kind of at that point now where he's in this huge feud. He's hinting like, if I'm not in AEW, he said last week, on TV, like I caught that. And I was like, okay, like he's saying like hinting at some stuff here. Like maybe there's like an I Quit match with him and MJF at some point or something like that, where you kind of give that nuclear heat even more to MJF. Like imagine if he ends Chris Jericho's wrestling career. You know what I mean? Imagine if they do that, where they have him, end Jericho and have
That's
that
so
whole
true.
thing. And then MJF's this big heel.
Imagine
Forever.
if Jericho
and so you have that.
Imagine if Jericho went through the gauntlet and then MJF still
It's an I Quit match.
And he beat Jericho and ended his career.
Yeah.
That would be I mean, Jericho as a commentator would be, I think, a great thing for AEW in general. If Jericho transitioned to commentator,
I love that idea.
down the road.
I love that.
Have JR transition to more special interviews and calling big matches or big moments, and allow Jericho to kind of transition to the booth, which I think he'd be awesome at. I like that idea a lot. I think that, and imagine, like you just said, the nuclear heat that MJF would have. As if you could hate that guy anymore. If he was the responsible one to ending Chris Jericho's career, I think a lot of people out there would be jumping over guardrails and trying to get their piece of MJF. I think that's a great answer. Not what I thought you were going to say either. So I'm really happy to see. I'm really happy to see this question already leading to some stuff that is got me thinking. So who's your present guy?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, the present that's part of that question as well. With the
past.
I think feeling. If they do that, it's going to be MJF. MJF is the guy that they're kind of not as obviously a different role, but MJF is that guy where like, okay, we always tier faces and heels. Like we have to do that, especially AEW. They have the ranking system. MJF, if he does that, will be the best heel in the company all the time. It won't be like a question anymore. There's not going to be like, oh man, like who's better? You can't have a better heel than him, the guy that retired Chris Jericho.
Right.
Right. To me, that's just not possible. Especially if you do that. That's why it's so brilliant. If you have him do that to Chris,
fresh off the heels of him beating Sammy Guevara, and really his promo work was talking about, Sammy, you're the future, I'm the present. I think that like, that makes a lot of sense. He himself is embracing and leaning into the fact that I'm the now. I don't care how damn young I am. I'm the now.
I'm already that good.
AEW needs to, recognize, and they need to lean into the MJF era and buy in and recognize this dude is – dude, he is as good at being detestable as anyone I've ever seen in this business. I swear to God, like he's so good at it. I'm with you. I think
him during the show.
So I'm intrigued now. Who's going to be your future? Because past, present, future, is it all elite? Is it all tied together with booking by bonds? Is it your mastermind have a whole long-term thing booked off of this? Is Sammy Guevara your future?
I would love to say that. I'm back and forth on this one. I really, this is a cop out. I'm not gonna actually. You know what? I'm not gonna cop out. I'm gonna say Jungle Boy as my future. Jack Perry.
I like it,
and I think it's because this guy in the ring, in my opinion, is every bit as impressive as Sammy Guevara. Like the stuff he does. He's younger as well, and he's like kind of already at that main event level where he had a match where he kept up with the champ. They kind of know like this guy is, right there. And I think that you can't go wrong with either of those answers. I think Sammy and him are right neck and neck.
The only difference for me and I respect that pick a lot. But the one big difference
it could have gone either way is a coin flip.
I think Sammy is a lot further ahead in the promo game than Jack Perry.
But that's 5 years
you know,
from now. 5
I
years. I
agree.
think Sammy's going to peak before that.
You think he's going to peak before
point.
that? I get what
Yeah.
you're saying. I get what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
He's already kind of getting there right now.
Typical Bonds fashion. You're projecting him as sort of more of a raw prospect, but in 5 years his ceiling is through the roof, right? He can be a game changer in 5 years. I can respect that. My answers, I feel like the past, as much as it pains me to say this, I have to say it while SPD's not around. I hope he's not listening. I think that Lance Archer, I think that it to me it's clear that although I wish that they would have given Lance a title run at some point here in AEW, out of just I think respect for all he's done in his career and how far he's come. I think Lance had moments during his run here at AEW where he really deserved a title. I think that I don't see that happening. I think that Lance is sort of kind of falling into a niche spot in the roster, and I could see him being phased out over the next couple years, and it makes sense with his age and all those things. I think that he's still got a lot of talent left, and I love Lance Archer, but I already start to see. I just see them sort of slowly. I see that happening, unfortunately, a little bit. Me personally, with the way he's been,
they don't seem to know what they want him to be at times,
right?
Which is part of the problem too.
I agree. It's been so hot and cold with Lance, where there have been times when he's been presented as truly one of the top guys in the company. I remember, the January, February time period, it felt like SPD was giving Lance Archer his best performer of the week every week. He was on fire during that Ray Phoenix, all that stuff going on that he got involved in. I don't see clear direction with Lance, and I think that there's going to be a little bit. So I'll move forward into the now. I'll be honest with you. I think that they're going to go all in with Hangman Adam Page right now. I know that seems like the obvious answer. But you took MJF. I think that for me, Hangman, it's clear they see him as the guy who can dethrone Kenny. I think that he has so much potential. Yeah. And this is a guy who just connects on a raw level with fans, dude. Like hearing those chants in the crowd this last week, it was one of those affirmations where it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna work, dude. Like this is totally gonna work.
It's clear that they held it off until the fans were back. Like now that's how I feel about it. It's clear that they held it off. Like a lot of the stuff that felt a couple weeks ago, we're kind of feeling like filler, and we're feeling okay, like where are they going with this elite stuff? It makes sense now. They were holding it off so that the fans could see it because that's a fan push.
Absolutely,
right there. It needs fans.
Absolutely. Hangman is the guy who you could tell he's the AEW, like he's the guy, right? He's gonna be he's gonna be their guy who ascends to the top of the mountain, who they invest in, they recognize is really, Cody could have been this, right? But I think that Cody recognized if he did it, it could come off wrong and it could actually hurt AEW. But someone who had
man's a lot younger than Cody.
Hey, that's so true. That's a gre's point. There's a lot more years ahead for Hangman. Cody's a powerhouse, and that dude goes all his matches are always epic. So it feels like he can go forever. But you're right. He's going to be transitioning. You think hopefully not. He can have a healthy life and all those things. But Hangman really feels like the guy, and I think putting him against Kenny Omega. I know it seems obvious, but this is the guy I think that they're going to really lean into to usher AEW into the on the road era. I think he's going to get some monster pops. I think Hangman could have a lot of fun feuds too with Hangman. Think about all the great heels in AEW. There's a lot of talent there that I could think Hangman could have some really cool matchups with. As far as the future goes,
My guy MJF, man, get that.
Yeah, as far as the future
You know?
goes, that was gonna be MJF is, I think, even though he feels, I agree with you, he feels ready right now. I think the best is still yet to come with him. It's shocking to say this.
I agree.
But I think in 5 years' time, he's gonna be, dude. He's in 5 years' time. He's not even gonna be in his 30. You know what I mean? He's gonna be like basically 30 years old. This dude is gonna be hitting his peak in 5 years in a way where everything is gonna come together. You're gonna see he's gonna have established track record. He's going to have gone through some highs and lows and been able to respond to them. And in 5 years, he's going to have had some championship gold around his waist. I can only imagine what MJF will be like after he gets more and more success in AEW, and after he develops and blossoms into a legitimate. He can talk the talk, but when he has the resume that continues. That's what's been beautiful about MJF. When he gets those wins, when he finds a way to come out on top, the more this guy continues to build and stack on that credibility, that resume, he's going to become more and more detestable. He's going to become more and more. He's going to have more content to lean into in his promo work. I think that, like as Mindrunner just pointed out, I think that 5 years from now, MJF versus Sammy Guevara, that is a feud. That is a feud that I think is going to be one of those. And 5 years from now is going to be at the top of the card. It's going to be headlining shows. And although you could see that now, imagine how good that will be with more history, with more hatred, with more growth from both guys. Really think that's going to be a lot of fun. Exactly. Not sharing the spotlight with Chris Jericho and the Pinnacle and Inner Circle, but
they're going to be Chris Jericho.
Being Jericho, being the guy, you're absolutely right. So much exciting stuff going on in AEW right now. And speaking of that, exciting stuff.
Good question.
There's been a lot of exciting things that have been happening in AEW, but I feel like one of the most bonkers things that happened this last week that no one really is talking about is that we had the in-ring AEW debut of Andrade and Malachi Black on the same night. What Tony is just like, all right, bro. I got a royal flush, homeboy. I'm putting that out. I'm laying the cards on the table. There is no. This dude is just going all out. This dude is really our motto right now at Dynamite Download is buckle up. And this is a sign of AEW being on board with that. They're going pedal to the metal. Pen asks about Andrade. He had a special announcement. Tell me, obviously it's not Zelina Vega. It's not Thea Trinidad because she re-debuted in a very lackluster way and on SmackDown with the red streak in her hair. Just kind of, it could have been an epic moment and was treated not as an epic moment. Bummer. Would have loved to see her come into AEW, especially now that her husband, Malachi Black, is there, and it just makes too much sense. She could have managed Andrade and been with her husband. It could have been beautiful. But what do you think Andrade's special announcement? What is his surprise? What is he got up his sleeve? El Idolo, what is he going to bring that is going to send shockwaves through AEW?
Well, I saw.
How would you do it? What would you do?
Twitter. See, I'll go with what I saw earlier on Twitter and with what I would do. I really saw something earlier that was interesting. It was that so there was a connection between Malachi Black and Andrade's theme song, his entrance music.
Yeah.
And I saw that earlier, and I was like, "That's interesting." I was like, "They got these guys coming over here, and that's neat." I wonder if that is true. Because that's something subtle that Tony is smart, and I think stuff subtle stuff like that. that's neat. I like that. I think
that's very neat.
Even if it's not real, it's not like what's going to happen. It's good to get us talking about it. Obviously, we're talking about it right now.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, that would be really cool. And obviously, like, I was expecting, Zelina Vega to be the announcement. That's really what I was expecting. So when she went back to SmackDown last week, I was like, oh man, like, okay, I wonder what they're doing here. And obviously, like, he's keeping us waiting. Who knows, man? It could be another debut at this point. It could be, who knows, dude.
Yeah,
maybe because he's with Vicky Guerrero. Maybe they're bringing Chavo. Right? Maybe they're bringing Chavo in. You could have Chavo when he comes in.
I mean,
then I would start hearing about who knows? You never know. There's a lot of folks here, man, that like a lot of veterans that they could sign that aren't signed right now. There's a lot of they could just do it with a storyline. Maybe he goes after somebody specific and like that was the announcement. Maybe he, that's the start to a feud with Miro or something random.
That's my thing, right?
It could be. That's the thing. It could be completely
right?
off.
He talked a lot about in his debut how it's his right. It's his he almost like it's his destiny to become champion. And you talk about Miro's rise to becoming TNT champion. It was his destiny to become champion. Andrade kind of came in with that same swagger, dude. Like he kind of came in with that same goal, that same focus. That like, all right, like I'm not here to like just have some cool, fun matches and make people eat popcorn and enjoy themselves in the crowd. Yeah, I want to win. I want to win. Pero. I want to win gold, Pero. I want to win gold. I want to be like, like think about it. He's with Charlotte Flair in real life. Like Andrade, this dude he's high part of the Flair family. He has high standards for himself, right? He wants the gold and he wants to be recognized as one of the greatest in the world. And there's that he has a big ego. He has a big swagger to him. This dude comes in, his name, his reputation precedes itself, right? This is a guy who is legitimate, recognized, especially throughout North America, as a real legit talent who can be a top guy for any company, right? So I think that him coming in and challenging Miro that would be, talk about in-ring styles. I think that having Miro, the wrecking ball that he's been presented as, going against a very smart, polished, experienced veteran like Andrade, who's really seen it all, who's been all over the world and challenged people for all sorts of championships. I think that would be and again, two names and faces that are bankable, right? Who can have a program against each other, and it will be a home run. Like they're gonna go out there.
The E-Marks would read that, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah,
you got Rusev versus Andrade.
Of course they would. But like I don't really care. That criticism to me.
I just can see Twitter right now.
John Moxley is great at what he does. I really don't matter. I think that's such a silly thing, and I'm so glad that Malachi Black outsmarted the 90-day no compete clause, because I think it's such BS that happens. It's such complete horseshit.
They're independent contractors, but they have a 90-day clause.
You're gonna
you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, you're gonna withhold somebody's opportunity to go make a living. That's really cool because you let them go. You're gonna
if you're gonna have that 90 days, you should be able to. You should have to pay them that whole time if you're gonna have them not be able to work for 90 days.
100%. And let's be real too, dude. Like, not to be a jerk about it, but I am wearing the heel shirt, bro. I am so cool with seeing Miro versus Andrade. Yeah. And if that means that like the Joey Janela's and stuff like that of the world get a little less TV time, I'm not going to lose sleep over that. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, right? But it's like AEW is in a legit war, and we want to be like, we are the nice guys. AEW, Dynamite Download, we try to be nice guys. I know AEW always tries to take, I think the AEW tries to present itself as the positive company, the positive brand, the fan-based brand. But let's be real, dude. Like, this is a war. These are direct competitors. You don't think that AEW wants to beat WWE Monday Night Raw and SmackDown?
Every
You don't
week.
think that they want
Yeah.
you don't think that they want Rampage to beat SmackDown on Friday nights? You're crazy. You're crazy. The business is business, and they want to be the top dogs. So I'm sorry if you have a Miro out here who's like capable of crushing folks. I'm gonna put him in the top spot, and I'm gonna roll with that. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that the more they embrace that, and I think there's gonna be an interesting more than Andrade. For me, to me, Miro, you and I both agree. This dude has it all. He's naturally super charismatic, knows how to get himself over, is a rare powerhouse who just absolutely is a blast to watch. But I think more than Miro, more than Andrade, I think Malachi Black is going to be a very interesting gauge for what AEW wants to do with this influx of outside talent coming into their company, because I feel like Malachi Black has this, right or wrong, he has this aura about him where it's like he's unique, right? Now, that's not saying anything bad about Andrade or Miro, and trust me, I'm not saying that they're bland or anything like that, but there's something unique about Malachi Black that kind of makes you intrigued to see what his potential is. Now, from an in-ring perspective, to be honest with you, he's my least favorite of the three. I like Andrade and Miro's work in-ring more than Malachi.
Storytelling.
It's the mystique. It's about the storytelling. It's about the creative, wicked mind that this dude has, this ability to do some incredible vignettes, to do some deep character work, and to play.
Can you imagine him and Darby in a feud?
Yeah, I can, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that happening one day, because I really like how he's willing to tap into areas of our mind and areas of the psyche that other characters don't really tap into very often. He's got a dark, kind of a wicked depth to a quiet, scary aura to him. And I'm wondering, does AEW lean into him and just say, hey, this is going to be our Undertaker. This is going to be our guy who really we present as this this terrifying, like how so many people wanted the Fiend. You know, they wanted Bray Wyatt to be presented as this next generation's Jake Roberts, the next generation's Undertaker. You know, does AEW lean into that with Malachi Black? And did they say, like, all right, every roster, I think really since the beginning, like since wrestling kind of broke on the scene in North America, you kind of need that, like, that out there element, right? You need that guy who walks the dark side, the guy who will be up in the rafters, the guy who is a little twisted. And how dark, how twisted, and how much steam is Malachi Black going to have? Because he is going to be debuting against Super Cody, folks, the man who has slayed many giants in his career.
And he slayed many ants.
I am so.
He likes to do both. He
likes to do both. Fresh off the heels of him, truly at just grinding QT Marshall and the factory into dust. I have some reservations. I know you're sitting back there just throwing your hands up saying, dude, I've been writing about this for weeks, Crayfish. I was optimistic that QT was going to make it through. Boy, was I wrong.
We were all wrong. We all thought that QT was going to win on Wednesday.
But Malachi Black debuting against Cody, do you see Malachi beating Super Cody? Do you see it happening? And do you see Malachi being the guy who lays waste to this dominant persona that we've seen out of Cody Rhodes of late? And if so, where does that catapult him? Because if you're able to put Cody down, and I liked the visual of Cody dressed in the all white suit and Malachi Black, literally with the last name Black, literally dressed in all black. The visual of evil versus good. Cody leaned into the wearing all USA colors against Anthony Ogogo. It's not a coincidence that he's doing the same for a visual aesthetic against Malachi Black. But do you see Malachi coming out on top in this feud? And if so, where does it catapult him? Who are some feuds that you want to see Malachi get engaged with? Because we're seeing the fan base, the chat is blowing up right now with names and opportunities and things that people want to see him get involved with. How would Booking by Bonds play it out?
Man, I sure hope that they're not planning on feeding him to Cody. That would just be a giant missed opportunity and wouldn't make any sense for a debuting guy with that much momentum. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they're too smart for that. And I was texting you about this week. We were talking about this exact topic. And what I really would like to see them do is to get him just really over by putting Cody on the shelf. Cody's probably going to take some time off because he just had he just became a father. He's got to take some time off eventually. And I think that this would be the perfect way to like get that really big heat because Cody's still getting like the crazy reactions from the crowd. You know what I mean? Like he's still over as a baby.
I think if they have a show in Philly, maybe he won't. But I feel like there are going to be a lot of crowds that are going to love Cody Rhodes, right?
Especially down south. You know what I mean? Like it makes a lot of sense. He's kind of playing up with his dad's stuff, which is cool. And I think that, if you do that with him and Malachi Black, you really put Black into that stratosphere of like, okay, this guy's already legit top guy. And that's great. When you can build a guy naturally that quickly, I think you kind of take that and do it. And if it doesn't work, then you alternate, then you fix it. You can always pivot away from it if it's not working with crowds. But I think that you go in, let it be hot if it's hot. And if it's hot, then you just roll with it. Because again, I'm sure we're going to start seeing things because we pay attention to the ratings sometimes. I'm on Twitter. I'm locked in.
Right.
I'm sure we're going to see an uptick in ratings now that we're seeing Andrade and we're seeing Malachi Black. And if you have Malachi Black, go over on Cody Rhodes, that will bring a lot of eyes on the product that wouldn't have been there before that.
True.
And I do think that that's something that they smart and is important. And that would I think that's why they need to do it.
There's a genuine buzz, right? Like there's a genuine buzz about him. And I think that like a casual viewer, when you see this cat on your screen, with all his tattoos and just like that the way he carries himself, this guy is just different, right? Like his entrances, his kind of demeanor, he's just different, right? He definitely grabs your attention. And I think that if they lean into it, there's a lot of exciting things. Like you mentioned Darby Allin, but imagine if Malachi Black created his own faction. Imagine if Malachi Black had his own cult of followers and feuded with the Dark Order and Hangman Adam Page. Imagine if, cult versus cult, bro. Like imagine if Malachi tried to infiltrate the Dark Order and turn them against Hangman Adam Page. And think about how unspeakable that seems, with John Silver saying, no matter what, win or lose, we're going to have your back. Imagine if Malachi could do something like that. There's so many, that's why, I think out of all the XWE guys, it feels like Malachi Black's presence and debut here in AEW feels very special and feels very important. And I think that they really, and again, not my favorite of the three, but I feel like they need to really, really embrace what they have with him, because they have an opportunity, I think, to pull in a whole other segment of an audience just by showcasing him in the right light. That he absolutely cannot lose this feud against Cody. That would be
No, that would
as
be
poor
a
of
huge missed
as
opportunity.
poor of a booking. But it seems like too that Lance Archer is clearly jumping on board. On social media, he and Malachi are kind of chatting with each other a little bit. I think that AEW is very smart with getting their characters interwoven with each other. Would be interesting to see how everybody dies, plays with Tommy End. There's a lot of cool things that could happen in AEW with Malachi Black's debut here. Certainly seems like he's going to present a bigger challenge than QT Marshall did. So I'm digging the debut. What a shock moment that was, and certainly think that down the road there's a lot of feuds that could happen post Cody Rhodes for Malachi Black.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man. I think that he's a guy that they're putting a lot of like that debut was awesome. And they even set it up earlier in the night. Like it was a really smart, well played debut. And I think that like they kind of know like, okay, we got a guy here that we're gonna push him a certain way. And it's gonna be interesting. It almost sounds like he could be like the anti Darby Allin, where he's like just
a
really
dark
creative,
version.
but he does it as like a heel.
Yes.
Yeah. Like a dark
Love
version
that.
of that. Completely different in-ring styles.
Yep.
They could do something really cool with that where, they have these guys that play off each other because, Kane and Undertaker always had each other. You kind of have to have two to make it work.
Oh, true. I love that idea, Bonds. Good point.
Yeah, so I think that'd be cool. And really, after Darby's done with Ethan Page stuff, like, who knows what's going to be next. That could be what they do here. They get, like, him knocking Cody out. I'll put him on the shelf for a little bit, and then once that all ego stuff kind of takes its own natural conclusion, then both of them can transition to something which would be great. I would love to see that. You kind of make him look strong that way as well. You can do that against Darby. He sells for everybody like a madman. So that's a good way to get him over as well.
Exactly. That's the thing I love about Darby, right? Is that he every time he's against somebody, like he always makes them look better.
Yep. Oh,
so,
sure.
Like that, and I'm glad to hear you say like Darby, because I'm always talking to SPD, and it feels like I have to freaking like whenever we talk Darby, it's like I'm putting it's weird because I'm the heel, but I feel like I have to defend my love for Darby Allin against SPD, and I think that like you serve as sort of serve as that nice balance where it's like you see the upside, you see the uniqueness of Darby, and his in-ring style is not the traditional style, but there's something cool and special and unique about this cat. And that's all that matters in wrestling, dude. If you're unique, if you know how to click and connect with a certain segment, certain vibe of people out there, dude, not everybody loves my favorite wrestlers like I do, right? Like some people think that I might be weird about how much I love DMD or Pac, right? Like that I'm off base. I know there's people out there who hate DMD, right? Like who think that she's like overrated and
The whole country.
Dude, like so the whole country of Saudi Arabia right now hates Britt Baker. But like to me, dude, like I get it and I respect that, and that's what I love about AEW is like, bro, like different strokes for different folks, man. Like there's nothing wrong.
You get
with
what
that.
you want.
But appreciate appreciate it, right? Like appreciate the fact that like, all right, you're gonna like at some point during this show, what makes you really love wrestling, you're gonna get fed that, right? But you might have to take the back burner for a half an hour while somebody else gets fed too in the next half, the next portion of the show, and that's what I see as with Darby Allin, dude. He's not everybody's cup of tea. But he certainly is a lot of people's cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like
he's a great talent.
He's a great talent. He's polarizing in a good way because he's unique and he has people buzzing. When you talk Darby Allin, there's something special that makes him stand out. And I think that he and Malachi Black, everybody in the chat is in lockstep with us, bro. Malachi Black and Darby Allin, the promos, the vignettes, the mystique and just the overall vibe. I'm already getting like goosebumps just thinking about the aura that those two guys are going to be able to establish. Like just, I think that would be so cool, dude. Like I am totally down with that. Like definitely into seeing that. And typically I like the cocky, arrogant heels, like all ego Ethan Page. normally that's my vibe, right? But like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely digging Darby Allin and Malachi Black. I'm thinking that there's a lot of fun things down the road there.
Oh, dude, yeah. We're in lockstep with the fans, man. We got to give the people what they want. AEW, you got to give the people what they want, and it's
That's
clear
the truth, bro.
that the people want Malachi Black versus Darby. Cody, you can beat Cody in one match. Throw us a bone here for
Make
the
it
factory.
a squash.
Have him just squash. Yeah, just have him squash Super Cody. Prove me wrong. Prove the booking by Bonds wrong about like my potential Super Cody, which would be hilarious, by the way. If you guys haven't read that yet, check it out because I kind of had like a joke booking by Bonds this week, and it was pretty. I thought it was pretty funny.
It was hilarious, and it was so evident that you're just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna let's just embrace Cody Rhodes as this like ultimate douche, and let's see how far can we take this. Super Cody, the Freelander from like the boys. If he leans into that aesthetic, Bonds, you booked it perfectly, my friend.
Oh, it'd be hilarious. It'd be like the Young Bucks, except they're good guy. He's a good guy.
Right.
It's hilarious. True. Have him grow like a big mustache and he takes it seriously. He never shaves it off. He's got like and he dyes it blonde like his hair. So he's got
now you're talking.
A big blonde mustache, and he's just he wears a red, white, and blue tank top to the ring, and he's got a towel on his head like Rocky Balboa.
Before you know it, he'll start calling people brother. You know, I like it. I like it a lot.
Hey, brother, he QT's his towel boy because that's apparently what they think of him.
Honest to God, yeah, Hulk Hogan would be very proud of Cody Rhodes' performance against the Factory. He buried those guys in a typical Hogan fashion. I liked it. Good stuff.
Oh man, yeah, I was getting flashbacks, man. I'm surprised it didn't end in a leg drop.
Well,
that would have been great.
I agree with you on that, brother. I like, for me, as we head into the end here, I'm shocked at how little we talked to DMD tonight. I'm also shocked.
She only had a promo this week.
She only had a promo. So why don't we get in a little DMD, end on a high note, and then we'll send everybody off into their weekend in pleasantries. Bonds, what's your take on the DMD Nyla Rose feud? Give us your quick feed. Obviously, let's avoid the landmine of Saudi Arabia, the blood money line. You could chat. You could touch on it. But that seems
watch
to be
another video for people that
topic.
have woke opinions on that. We don't really care, frankly. It was a funny line. It worked. Who cares? Funny. Grow up.
Right.
Doesn't matter. It's a wrestling show. Like worry about things that matter, not what some wrestler says about your country. It doesn't matter at all. Thank you.
Right.
But back to the feud.
Wow. If you're getting that butthurt over a wrestler cutting a promo and saying a line that was funny, like you gotta check yourself a little bit. But all right,
Go just
I digress
for like the last 2 months about America, so it's fine.
Yeah,
exactly. We don't hate Anthony Ogogo. We were cheering him for it. We think it's hilarious and good. You got to laugh at yourself.
America embraced Anthony Ogogo talking shit about us, and actually he turned into the baby face of that feud. Why don't you guys honestly? People need to have a little thicker skin and not take everything so personally. If you're not out there personally getting the blood money stuff and all that stuff, then just relax, all right? Just chill out. Let's just chill out and enjoy a wrestling show. But it makes me happy, to be honest with you, as a DMD fanboy. It's just an absolute slappy for Britt Baker. It makes me so happy to see her leaning it. Like, Britt told me on Instagram, she was like, Crayfish, chill out. Like, heel Britt for life. She was like, heel Britt for life. I'm not turning babyface. Chill out. It's all good. And 4 days later, after that conversation with the DMD, she goes out there and now she's like you look at
the
all
most
her
hated
posts,
person.
Yeah,
she's
just flooded with people like that, just like from the Middle East, just demanding an apology and all this bullshit. Like she's the most hated person in all of AEW, and I'm like, yes. I was so worried about losing. I was so worried about losing her to Team Babyface, and with one line, with one line on Dynamite, the DMD guaranteed that she's locking in the team heel for a while. That has people
man.
so riled up, man. But
I love the promo from that one. Honestly, it was that one line this week that, like, okay, I'm back in. Like, that's what's good about AEW, man. A lot of times, like, I'll be kind of like, about something, and then they'll
and
one
I've
week,
been that way against the Nyla feud too, right?
You know, they just need. It's not even the Nyla feud. It's there's feuds where sometimes I get a little bored. I'm getting kind of like, okay, what's the end game here? You know, I was getting that with the Young Bucks for a little bit, for a couple weeks. I was getting kind of bored. And now I'm completely back in and invested. And I think like a promo like that from Britt, it was like, okay, she kind of showed that she's still Britt Baker. I'm back in. Like, I'm not worried about them turning her into like a lame baby face anymore. I think it's good. It'll work. And
so with you on that.
Yeah, dude. I'm excited.
I couldn't love it anymore, dude. It makes me so happy seeing the DMD just trolling people. Everybody hates her now again. And all is right with the world. The DMD is an uber heel. I'm so geeking about it. I love it, brother. I love it.
Well, and now she also guaranteed that WWE's never going to hire her away ever again. Because they'll never be able to send her over there.
DMD is AEW through and through,
or
my
life.
friend. Couldn't be happier post Dynamite. Crayfish was sitting at home just geeking out.
We were texting. You guys would love reading our text messages during the show sometimes. They're hilarious. It's like a Friday Night Fights and Flights for like 2 hours of Dynamite. We were just like, oh man, like that. Like, I don't know how many times we call the Young Bucks. We go, oh man, those guys are such morons. I love it. Like, we say that so much, and like we talk about their mustaches all the time. And like we could post like 1,000 hours of text messages of just our
on AEW Dynamite.com. We should just start posting screenshots of our chat log. I agree with you. A lot of people would get a kick out of that. Maybe we get more fans out of that too, Bonds. But one of the things, like, I know I have a buddy out there who's been saying, dude, watch out. The seeds are getting planted for a Rebel and DMD fissure, a breaking apart of the DMD.
She's going to rebel.
And the more, she's going to rebel. Good line. But cheesy. Oh my God, was that was bad. But Rebel and DMD this last week at the promo, and we've seen it, right? Britt has talked about how she won this belt all by herself. She did it all on her own, and referring to Rebel as her assistant, and I think she called her even Reba. She called the wrong name, talking about how Reba does her makeup. It was super disrespectful, fresh off the heels of Rebel, like tearing up her knee,
saving the day.
And saving Britt from another, like continuing to do, like always have her back. Is there potential down the road for a Rebel babyface turn against the DMD? Could that happen down the road? Am I reading into things
I would
too
really
much?
Like that.
Yeah, I think that there's something.
I think that would be really
dude.
Cool.
And think about how like completely like a lack of regard for Rebel this promo had. Britt basically fresh off the heels of seeing Rebel go down, again, focused in on herself, focused in on how unfair things were to her. And really, I just feel like continues to downgrade the role that Rebel has played in the rise of the DMD era. Interesting to see where this goes, right? I think this could be one of those slow play. We talk about it. It's long-term storytelling. If they continue to plant these seeds, would be very interesting to see Rebel turn on the DMD and have a mini feud there. I think there could be something there, dude.
We saw like the seeds being planted of Rebel turning babyface with that injury. You saw the reaction on social media. Like the reaction on social media when she got hurt.
Yep.
It was like, oh man, like huge outpour of support. And so like having Britt kind of play her role against her that way is a really smart, subtle way to do it. and it's something that they could really kind of lean into. I'd love to see them lean into that. It would make a lot of sense. I would rather be seeing that as the current storyline with Britt. Personally, I think that would be more interesting than what they're currently doing. I think that maybe the next feud, maybe she kind of has like a one-off with Nyla to start her run, get a nice big win, legitimize her as the champion, and then have that be the next thing going on. That'd be cool.
Well, that's the thing for me right now. And as much as like I'll be real with you, bro. Like it's me and you sitting here. I've finished off my bourbon, so I'll just spit it to you raw. This Nyla feud is not hitting with me, right? Like with Britt, like it's just not. I'm not vibing with it. As much as confidence as I have in the DMD to kind of navigate this and do her thing, and honestly, as much as respect I have for what Nyla can do in the ring and everything, I'm not hating on either competitor. I think they're both banging. The problem
sometimes
is,
it's just chemistry.
It just doesn't click right now. Yeah, it's just chemistry. You got to give it a chance to see if it'll work, but I'm just not seeing it. It's just not vibing.
No.
And so like I want to immediately kind of like be bummed about what's going on, right? This is like the start of the DMD championship era. It just doesn't feel like this is how it should have played out to begin the title reign, right?
It shouldn't be over Big Macs.
But I really, 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 really think AEW needs to lean into the fact that Nyla Rose is, as Crayfish has deemed her, Nyla Rose is the gatekeeper of the AEW women's division. I think the AEW really needs to lean into the fact that Nyla, she is that benchmark. And, as much as I love the DMD, so much of my love for the DMD is based on her character work and her promo work, right? I do respect her in-ring work. I think I give her more – I recognize what she does in the ring more than a lot of folks do. But I think that if Britt beats Nyla, it adds a legitimacy to her championship reign from an in-ring – get it done in the ring perspective that needs to happen for her to be as effective as she can be going forward, right? She needs to have that feather in her cap, dude. Like she lost to Nyla in the women's championship tournament. She lost to Thunder Rosa in that unsanctioned match. You have to start giving some of these big chips.
She needs it on a win because like that match was the Thunder match, but she lost. Like I feel like she got a lot of respect because of that match with Thunder Rosa, but
she lost
the match. So it's you have to have that match because I wasn't really a huge fan of the way she won the title. It was a good match, but it was fine. You know what I mean? Like it's not as epic as it could have been. That Sheeta Britt Baker feud, the build and the Sheeta stuff was the build was really weak. So having it that way. I think that it makes sense. Like have her kind of get this big win against somebody that's completely different than anybody else on the roster, and then you start kind of having her into these feuds. And if you want to turn her babyface, I mean, like maybe that's. I agree. I don't want to do it either, but there's probably ways to do it that would make it easier, kind of an easier pill to swallow. Than this current feud. I don't think it's working because I think that's what they were doing. And I think we're starting to see it'll backpedal because it doesn't work quite as well. I do think that's happening.
I'm glad to see that, right? Because it's like, I'm excited that Britt's popular, right? I'm excited that they've given her the championship and they recognize what they have with her.
Yeah.
But you can't change And I don't want to be somebody who resists growth and resists change because you have to constantly be evolving and you have to constantly be learning from the past so that you can be relevant in the future. I get all that, but Britt just became champion, and she became champion fresh off the heels of such great character work on her part to really develop this persona, and now you're already tinkering with that persona fresh off her winning. Like you said, allow it to marinate, allow her title reign, at least the beginning of her title reign, to be reflective of who she is and what she's done, to earn this title reign. Allow it to be a reflection of that. And I do agree with you. I think maybe they're backpedaling a little bit. I do think what I see happening, I think she's going to be portrayed as a conquering hero, especially when they hit, Pittsburgh. I think that Britt's going to, they see that on the horizon. Pittsburgh, Britt Baker, it's going to be Britsburg. They're going to be going bonkers for Britt. Why not lean into that, right?
Treat it like CM Punk treat Chicago.
Right. Let her be presented as the baby face in Pittsburgh, beat Nyla Rose, and move forward, and allow her then to move on to some feuds that I think make more sense with the dynamic of her character to me, that make more sense and put her in a light that I think that Britt has the ability to really change women's wrestling in AEW. I think that she has the ability to take it to another level, but I think that they need to be mindful of who they pair her with in order to do so. And there's no coincidence that Britt's best work came as she was paired with Thunder Rosa. You have to have those two sides that make sense together in order to create the perfect harmony. And I think Nyla is not that. So let's try to work towards something that puts Britt in positions. Think about some of the awful things that Britt did during the Thunder Rosa feud. That's the Britt Baker we want to see. We want to see the trash talk, the water bottles, the sneak attacks, the running away from
BS.
Yeah, we want to see that nasty side. And I think that as they pivot away from the Nyla feud, that's the thing I'm shocked most by is I feel like the Nyla feud is, to me, it makes sense because she is the gatekeeper, as I say, but it's so weird because when I look at the AEW women's division, all the emerging challengers feel like baby faces. We just got done with that cross collaboration, and Maddie Anderson, Squishterdamus out there, she's a huge Chris Statlander fan. And, we talk about what Chris Statlander's doing right now, and she's clicking. The best friends, her and the best friends are clearly over with the fans. Her busting out that Area 451 on Dynamite was just nuts.
Sweet.
She's got a lot of upside, right? And that's a challenger who would be fun to see go against Britt Baker. Ty Conti, I know Bonds, I'm preaching to the choir when I bring up Ty Conti, but Ty Conti, Jade Cargill, there are a lot of names that you could put Britt Baker.
We haven't seen Jade wrestle in a long time.
Right. Imagine what, and again, Jade is not a baby face by any stretch, but her confidence and her swagger and that ego that she has against Britt Baker's confidence and swagger and ego would be really fun to watch.
It'd be like Jericho and MJF in a lot of ways. It would be like that, where it's like you got these two people that are really good on the mic and good at dissing each other, being able to do that. And I think that that's a quick way to legitimize like Jade. Like you get her over very quickly doing that as well. And and that might be the way to make Britt a babyface. Let her prove that she can be a babyface and also like be an insulting jerk. Because you can be that. It depends on your opponent. Like if she's like trash talking, somebody that's already a heel, she's still the baby face there. So like if you do it a certain way and you flip her that way, where you have it kind of work in that regard, then you can still let her be a baby face, but just have it her still be that character. She can maybe be a little less tone it down slightly. Maybe that way, tone it down slightly. Don't go for the jugular all the time.
It becomes a nice blend of wanting her to be more. Again, AEW wants her to be the one on the magazine covers and in the newspapers and in the interviews with Sports Illustrated. Allowing her to be more likable while still having that edge. Absolutely, I get what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense. And if the Nyla feud puts her in a weird spot. But if you put her in some feuds like we just talked about, I think Jade's a great example. Somebody who has an equal arrogance and equal or kind of that confidence, that swagger that can go toe-to-toe with Britt, challenge her in that regard, and still allow Britt to talk that trash, but in some ways be presented as the underdog. Obviously, when you put her against a Jade Cargill, like Jade's a powerhouse. I think that I don't know, man. To me, I think that the AEW women's division has a lot of baby faces in it. I think that there are a lot of women that could still rise up.
But there's a lot of it's very undefined.
I agree. I agree with that. And I think that was one of the big things we talked about regarding the Penelope Ford versus Yuka Sakazawa match.
Yeah.
Is you got to give these lesser known names some shine. You got to give Penelope and Yuka, that opportunity to go on a stage like Fyter Fest, because you have to stretch out that division. You got to see what you have. Okay, you've established Shida, Thunder Rosa, who's not signed with your company yet.
Right.
Britt Baker, Serena Deeb is well established before AEW. Who are the names that are established as respectable contenders in AEW right now for the women's division? They need to flesh out that division, continue to invest more time in it.
It's hard to do with 1 or 2 segments a week. It really is, especially when the matches, and I don't want to get on a tangent here before we close out, but when every match has a picture-in-picture match, you know what I mean? It's hard to do that when you have one match with a picture-in-picture for half the match every week, and it's that's part of why it's taking a long time to find the women's division in a lot of ways, because again, our champion for 6 months wasn't even on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot going on here where we have to still build the division in a lot of ways. And I think it's very far from a finished product. That's why people were so excited about Zelina Vega, because it's hey, she could be somebody in here that people know that you could bring in, and that didn't happen. But
that's why, as controversial as it is, I'm not afraid of controversy. I'm
right.
a team heel. If I could sign any, but in my top 3 of free agents that I would bring in, Tessa Blanchard is in my top 3 of free agents that I would bring in AEW. I know it's controversial. I know it's controversial. I know, her history. I'm not saying that I stand behind everything that she's done in her life, but
no,
I think from a need perspective, from a credibility perspective, Tessa really could be a game changer for AEW. Now, again, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and Brock Lesnar, there's a lot of names out there that I would love.
That's different. Whole different ball game.
It's different. I'm talking if Tessa would immediately make the AEW women's division, it would be put on notice.
Yeah.
And it would add another legitimate
instant top tier
top tier talent in that division, who, now you immediately have Britt Baker, hopefully Thunder Rosa when she can be signed by AEW, but Shida, you spent time trying to develop there. Tessa, all the work that you're trying to do right now with Ty Conti and Chris Statlander and all that stuff,
you would have to do it.
That work's already been done.
Yeah.
Tessa's established. She's the real deal. They need that, just like they're doing for the men's division with bringing in established talents like Malachi Black and Andrade. Tessa would be that, but in the women's division, which I think desperately needs that right now. And we talked about free agents, dude. I talked about the tag division. That would be nice to have an Authors of Pain, another team that's well established that could come in and immediately freshen things up, shake up the landscape, change things a little bit. I think, obviously you can't sign everybody, but if you could pick one, to me, one division that needs that shakeup more than anybody, it is that women's division. I think that Britt Baker, the reason why they had to go to the old well with Nyla as a championship contender is because you got to be careful. Ty Conti, she's young. She's got a huge fan base behind her. You don't want to feed her. She lost to Shida. You don't want to feed her to DMD and have her lose right away again.
That would be a bad feud to start.
Chris Statlander, she seems like she's just been absolutely on fire since she came back and debuted again and pushed that, the plexiglass into Penelope Ford's face. Chris Statlander looks better than she ever has. But again, with her upward momentum right now, do you feed her to DMD and have her lose? there's
too
question
early.
marks about that, right?
There's nobody that you can there's nobody that you can throw into the match right now that makes sense. That's like other than Nyla, which is why we
Serena
have it.
Deeb.
Or Serena Deeb, but Serena Deeb, they're in the middle of turning heel.
Right.
So it's like you can't really do that, especially because the babyface stuff isn't landing with Britt. So you have like this weird, like, what do you do? You know, you got to either do something quick here, and that's why like the Rebel stuff would be such a good workaround, because then you kind of like, okay, you've got like
there's a story there. There's a story.
Yeah, there's a story. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, she's wrestling the best contender for the championship, but like either have it one way or the other, where you have like the story be really good, or you have like
it's a great point.
Matchup be really good.
Let the story be really good right now, right? The Rebel Brit stuff could be really compelling, and then lean into the match stuff being good when you're ready for Britt to go against, a Jade, when you're ready for Britt to go against a Serena Deeb, Britt to go against a Statlander. If Thunder Rosa can come back, that's the ultimate. When Thunder Rosa comes back.
Best case scenario is you have a babyface out of it with Rebel then too. So that's somebody else that you can like put out there for these matches. She's been around forever.
Right.
She knows what she's doing. If you put her in as baby face, you can have her go out there, have really good matches.
Have her get tired of Britt being disrespectful to her. It would be really like a natural story that I think that a lot of people could get behind. I'm with you. I don't know, man. I think we're gonna wrap things up here tonight, and I'm glad to hear that. You see some of the same things I see. The DMD stuff right now. DMD stuff is controversial, but that's what's fun about AEW is it feels like this product is the furthest thing from stale. Like we see so many rematches, we see so many stories rehashed week after week after week after. I don't know how many times I've seen Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley this year, and I love both guys, but I cannot. I couldn't count how many times I've seen that match. It's nice to see AEW trying to change the landscape, always trying to stay fresh, keeping us on our toes, giving us so much to talk about. Can't wait for Wednesday night. We're going to get back at it. It's going to be the first night of Fighter Fest. It's going to be a huge card. We're going to have a great time talking about that. And then Friday Night Fights and Flights next week, is going to be a great time too, because this is such a great show. We just kick it. We have a good time. SPD will be joining us next week, so that the whole crew will be here again.
That Team Babyface being represented.
Yeah, Bonds, it was nice having you join the dark side tonight. I know you try to walk the line as our columnist. You got to stay fair and impartial, but I really enjoyed having you on Team Heel tonight. Had a great time chatting with you tonight, and everybody else in the chat had a great time with all y'all tonight. Please share, like, subscribe. Get all those people out there. We're so close to that 1,000 subscriber mark.
Yeah,
we're really pushing that. Big deal for us here at Dynamite Download. Do what you can. We really appreciate that love and support. And for those of you spending a couple hours with us on a Friday night, we love y'all. Really can. Seeing the chat buzz, bro. I don't know about you. That's what this is all
keeps
about,
us going
bro.
the whole time.
Keeps us going, homeboy. Love it. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We'll talk to you guys on Wednesday and on social. Keep up with us on AEW Dynamite Download.com.
Thanks for joining us, guys. You guys enjoy your blood money.